Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome into another edition of Inside Automotive right here at the CBT Automotive Network.
CBT News, your number one resource for auto industry news and content.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. Data is the key to smarter marketing and better customer experiences. But what's the best way to act on it? On today's show, we are discussing a few things you need to know about the data at your dealership and the new acronym that we hear so much about over the last couple of years, which is CDP. Joining us now is April Simmons, who's a corporate internet and marketing director at Horne Auto Group. Thank you so much, April, for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to jump in on this topic. It's one that I'm very passionate about and have been digging and peeling layers for about 3 years now. So excited to chat about it.
That's great. That's great. Well, before we jump into that, first and foremost, how is business at your dealership today?
You know, business is great. I'm in the Phoenix Metro, and we have some other stores kind of sprinkled throughout Arizona. We've been extremely busy. Now, granted, it is wintertime in Phoenix for us is the best time.
Yeah.
So weather is great. We've got all our snowbirds here. So business is really, really good. I would say we definitely have gross profit compression, right? And so net profits and expenses and all of those things are hot topics. Used car acquisition, another super hot topic for us as we're rolling into 2025. So I think that it's going to be a very interesting year as we pivot and adjust. And I would say we're just now starting to kind of hit that normalization that we all knew was going to happen.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about some of these things that we hear so much about. And of course, customer data platforms or CDPs has seemed to be all the rage in the last few years. So many dealers rely on their CRM and DMS for customer insights. What makes a CDP different from those for those dealers out there that are not utilizing a CDP?
You know, I think one of the biggest things when we start talking about CDP is it's trying to get one place for the data. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to say, hey, instead of having these walled gardens of data, so, you know, I've got my CRM and my CRM data I can only do so much with it. Also, you know, when you start talking about CRM specifically, a lot of the CRMs, because of the way that they have their servers, when you start doing email marketing or you want to do stuff with that data, it's not always the best practice. It really puts you up to, you know, have issues potentially like getting gray listed and having spam problems and things like that. You don't want that to happen in your CRM. That is your, you know, first place of attack on, you know, trying to reach out to consumers. So that's not necessarily where you want that. Then you transition over to the DMS. And there's a lot of things that you can't control. And quite frankly, we don't give everyone access to the DMS, right? Like the average salesperson does not have access to the DMS, nor do we want them to have access to that, that level of data. So having a CDP is really about saying, where can I get all of my data for a dealership in one place for two purposes? One, to make it actionable for every marketing source that you use, to create a true life cycle marketing, right, which helps us be much more efficient in our spend, which, as I just mentioned, right, expenses are key. Where's the first place we go to cut expense? Marketing. It's always the first place we go because it's the one thing I know how much I spend on that.
That's right.
So I think it's going to be key for efficiency in that space. Sure. One of the unintended areas that dealers massively overlook when we talk about data is it is our responsibility to control that data. So when you look at all the compliance stuff that is out there, and yes, the Cars Act kind of got thrown out at this point, but there's a plethora of stuff that's out there that requires us to follow all these different laws, right? So you have the calling laws and the texting laws and the data privacy laws and the CCPA, and you have just all these plethora of laws. Well, imagine this as a typical dealer. Customer calls in, Jim calls April and says, April, take me off your marketing list. Okay, Jim. Well, I, as a salesperson, have access to one thing, right? The CRM. So I go in, I say, do not call, do not email, and do not text Jim. My job's done. Au contraire, but is it?
Right.
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 So when we have data in so many different places and all
That's
these
right.
different platforms, and our equity mining platform and this platform and that, and we don't go out and say, okay, take them out of here, 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 and here, then we are subjected to really getting into trouble. So
That's right.
there's a lot of reasons that a CDP is important. And that is just, tip of the iceberg. So I started, about a year and a half ago with Athenacom, really wanting to dive into finding a way to get control of our data. So we started our own data vault, which now I don't know if you heard at NADA, they now have partnered with NADA, so NADA Vault, which allows dealers to start really finding a way to get all their data into that one place and control it.
Right.
My next layer and passion, though, is to try to find a CDP that I can put at that layer.
Right.
Right. Because if I can get one spot, control all my marketing, resources can flow through one place, and I can then action it, right? Because it's great to have your data, but a lot of these CDPs, it's like, oh, cool, my data's sitting over there. Now what? What do I do with it?
Right. Right.
So it's about getting it all in one area, making it actionable for everybody, and most importantly, in one of the overlooked places, making it compliant so that we can control it in a much easier fashion, make sure we're doing it.
That's right. That's right. It just so happens last night when I got home from work and I picked up my mail out of the mailbox, I didn't have one offer. I had two offers for service opportunities from dealerships from vehicles that I owned 5 and 7 years ago, okay? Which just drives customers crazy. I'm sure it drives dealers crazy because that's just a waste of stamps and printing, and not to mention, it makes that dealership look pretty foolish that you didn't know that I traded those vehicles in at your dealership in one of the cases, right? And yet I'm still getting this offer on this BMW, and it just, here we are in 2025 and we're still having this conversation. What is the deal? You must, just.
Oh, it's infuriating.
Yeah.
And just, the cost that it cost us to, to send out that mail, because you're one person, right? Take that times
That's right.
thousands and thousands and thousands, right? When we do these big mailers.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, there's this aspect of, do you want to continue doing business with somebody who obviously doesn't pay attention to any details, right? So, it kind of looks bad. So imagine now email. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how people get gray listed, because now I'm sending you emails about a car you don't have anymore.
That's right.
So what are you going to do? What's the first thing that Jim does when he's like, this is stupid, I'm going to unsubscribe?
That's right.
Well, once you unsubscribe, this is one of the key factors that tells Gmail and Yahoo and all these other people that, you must be a spammer because of your level of people who are unsubscribing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So now I can't market to you at all.
That's
right. So now at this point, you've unsubscribed. Now, even if I want to sell you a car next year,
that's right,
because you might be in the market, I can no longer reach out to you because you have taken yourself out.
That's right.
So it's layer after layer after layer. But I will tell you, one of the ones that I'm real passionate about conversation with is actually the OEMs, because a lot of where these mailers and things come from is that they don't take the updated data. Right. So I might update my data in my CDP.
Yeah.
I might update my data in my CRM.
Right.
But that data rarely gets updated in the DMS. And where does the OEM pull all of their data
from? The DMS.
Bingo.
Right.
Bingo.
Right.
So we've got to start getting to this place where not only do we have a CDP, but everyone is willing to actually work on pulling data from that clean source so that those things don't happen.
That's right. That's right. Where do you go when a manager walks in, or a GM of one of your stores or what have you walks in and says, April, this cannot happen. I just got this mail piece myself, or a customer brought it in, or what have you. Where do you go with that? I mean, how do you stop it as a marketing a director for a group? You must want to kill somebody, right? Because it makes you look bad, right? Yeah.
Well, all the time.
So
step one is for me to say, hey, where did this piece of mail get sent from?
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So step one, who is the vendor?
Yeah.
Because if the vendor was the OEM,
Right.
Again, I kind of go, all right, I'm going to talk to, I talk to them every time they come in.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, guys, we need to have the data pulled from this area. But
Yeah.
the other one is a lot of times the stores, and especially the service department, they sign up for things not necessarily understanding that tracking numbers are really important.
Yeah.
UTM tagging things is really important. Like if we want to see the results, we need to do these things. But also, if we just say, yeah, pull the data from the DMS, because that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And we didn't say to that vendor, hey, no,
Yeah.
I need you to pull the data from this source now instead.
Right.
Then we kind of created it ourselves.
Yeah,
so at that moment, it's a who done it, and then a gentle, nice reminder that we need to make sure when we sign up for things that we are communicating with our vendor that we now have a new place that we would like them to pull the data from.
Right. Right. Which in your goal is that's a centralized location where that data is updated and cleaned, because that's the key to it, right? Everybody talks about first party data, but to your point, it's useless if it's not pure, right? And clean.
Clean and then used.
Yeah,
so those are the two most important factors, is that it's got to be clean, it's got to be used, and it's got to be accessible to every marketing channel. It's got to be accessible to the OEM. It's got to be accessible to every vendor. So there's a lot of CDPs out there now, but the problem with them is that they have now their own walled gardens, right? They're like, yeah, we can action it for you, for us.
Yeah.
But as you know, when you get into a group, we have 14 locations. This OEM says I have to use this marketing channel, and this OEM says I have to use that marketing channel. So then your CDP doesn't mean anything to this company, this company, this company, or this OEM.
Right.
So it's really important that when we talk about a CDP, it's not only got to be clean and actionable, it's got to be actionable to everyone.
Right. Right. Yeah. Very good point.
And in a secure way, right?
Yeah,
like we can't. This idea that we're going to just keep downloading, Excel spreadsheets and uploading Excel spreadsheets. And that's how even some of these fancy CDP companies now are saying, hey, that's how we should do it. And I'm like,
wow. Wow.
Like, I think we're in a world where, dealership world, API, like we have got to get to a world that is the way that things flow, and it should be able to flow automatically.
That's right. That's right. What happens when a GM calls you and says, hey, April, we're not having a good month. Pull that lever on marketing. I know we allocated $100,000 and it's the 15th and I only want to spend 50. I know you probably get that call. As a GM, I made those calls. And
oh, yes.
Do you try to talk them down off the ledge and go, calm down? Okay, you too, Mr. GM, are not smart enough to know when that market that you think is not here is going to come back. And by then, you're too far gone, right? Now you've been out of the market for a week or two. Maybe I just kind of fed you some of the answer there. But what do you say to a GM that says, I want to pull that marketing lever?
Oh, dude, it's like the sky is falling.
Right.
The building is on fire.
Right.
Something must be broken. It's always something must be broke. Right.
Yeah.
We had a bad weekend. We had a bad week. We had a bad month. Whatever the case is.
We had a bad Saturday.
It's always marketing's fault.
Oh, yeah, of course. Wrong message, wrong platform, wrong data, whatever it is. They get so mad at you, they want to just pull the rug out from under you, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
And what's interesting, Jim, is that, for me, this is my 27th year in automotive,
wow.
and I don't have a marketing background.
Yeah.
I spent my time in the trenches, as a sales manager, as a finance manager, doing all these jobs. So the difference is, for me, it makes it a little easier for me to push back on them and use the math.
Yeah.
So what I do is I say, okay, well, let's look at the 3 things that impact your sales.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough people to hit your goal?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough inventory to hit your goal?
Right.
Then we look at the marketing and say, okay, did you get enough opportunities? Did you get enough internet leads? Did you get enough traffic to the website? These things. And I go through and I math it out. And if I math it out and I say, well, based on everything I see here, it's not a marketing problem. It might be that you don't have enough people to sell the cars, and you had enough people last year to sell such and such volume of cars. I think that's something we're missing right now too, is this understanding the math has never changed.
Yeah.
A retail sales associate is going to sell 8 cars. Internet guy might sell 10. The averages have never changed. So if you say, hey, I want to sell 500 cars a month,
Yeah.
but you don't have enough people to sell 500 cars a month, I don't care what your marketing is.
That's right.
You're not going to hit your goal.
That's right.
So I think we have to be realistic about the math. And that's the first place I go when that happens is I say, okay, let's look at your math. Let's see if it really truly is an opportunity problem.
Right.
And then training them to start looking for smoke, right? I say, hey, look, let's not have a conversation when you think it's a fire.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation when you think you see a little smoke.
Good point.
Training them to look for certain key factors that say week over week, did you suddenly have your leads drop substantially? Did you have users to your website drop substantially? Like if these things happen in a week to week situation, then let's have a conversation because there's smoke.
That's right. That's right.
Before there's a fire.
And I would also add, maybe you take a listen to the last 5 or 10 calls that came into your BDC center and see how the calls are being handled, right? Because sometimes it would be very eye-opening for me as a manager of a store to think, oh my God, I just listened to the last 10 calls. 3 of them weren't even answered. Okay, maybe they were put on hold and nobody ever came back, right? So again, to your point, it's not always an advertising problem. You've got to take a look at all of these other areas, advertising being just one of those elements, right? And
correct. Well, and 9 out of 10 times it is the people or the process that's broke.
Yep.
Right? Because marketing is probably the most consistent thing we do in a dealership.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
So it's usually if something you have this one thing that goes like this, it's typically the people or the process.
Right.
And you're exactly right. What is our close rate on the internet leads that we've gotten?
Yeah.
Okay, if we're seeing that substantially down, that's a problem. Phone pops, we look at that. Then we look at the walk-in, right? We do all those things, and you're absolutely right. The other thing I think that is key to marketing that I would share is I also tell my teams, look, if you want to just sign a check to the vendor and have set it and forget it, mentality, then you're going to have set it and forget it results.
That's right.
Right. So if I call you and I'm trying to get an offer, or hey, it's January 30th and I'm talking to you about President's Day and you're like, I don't want to talk about it now. Okay, well then those are the things that will make your marketing is always going to work, but can it work better if you're more engaged?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's a very good point, because I think in a lot of cases, managers, dealerships, they want to push that off to an April Simmons and go, here, just load us up with calls and clicks and walk-ins. And I don't care what you do, just get there. But you're right. The difference is that manager that is engaged in that entire process and can sit down in maybe even December to talk about, President's Day in February and what you're going to do for it, for sure. Let me ask you this last question. I don't mean to put you on the spot on this question, but that is, should a dealership, in your opinion, advertise on their website the absolute lowest price that they'll take on that car, or should they start higher with it in mind that the customer is going to want to work a deal or what have you? Because I know I get a lot of different answers on this. Dealers will say, no, we put MSRP, come see us for a discount. Others will say you're wasting your time. Put on there what you're going to sell the car for and stick to it. Where do you stand in that?
I think a lot of that has to be determined by your competition. Okay. So I think the market that you're in and what your market competitors do is probably what's going to drive that decision for me more than anything else. Because if I don't get a swing at the bat, I got nothing. Right. So step one is I got to get them to engage with my dealership. If they're not engaged with my dealership, I get nothing.
Right.
But nowadays, when you look at the majority of the OEMs have MAP pricing.
Yeah.
Well, MAP pricing says that I can't discount the vehicle below invoice. Well, this will be shocking to a lot of people, but the difference between invoice and MSRP with a lot of these manufacturers, in some cases, are $60 or $80 nowadays. Crazy. There's just not a massive amount of markup between the two. So in that case, does it make sense to show a $60 discount? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Does a customer feel like they have more hope for gain at MSRP if your discount's only $60? But then you look at some of the ones that are maybe off map pricing, or, if you have leftover 2024s, in those cases, maybe you want to have more aggressive pricing. I personally still believe, and it takes a lot more time to do it, but I believe in having loss leaders.
Okay.
Taking your oldest pieces of inventory. If I can aggressively price on the website, I'm going to aggressively price one option in each model and trim that is my oldest piece of inventory on the lot, and that usually is best practice. And then the other vehicles, I might have a small discount with whatever my market is yielding.
Yeah.
And then from there, now you've got a mystery shop. The only way nowadays what your competition is really doing. You can't look at the website.
I know.
You got to shop. You got to shop your competition. You got to be a customer, shop your store, and go shop your competition.
That's right. I agree. April Simmons, Corporate Internet and Marketing Director at Horne Auto Group. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Very much appreciate it. I know that our viewers get a lot out of your appearance here at CBT News whenever you're on. So thank you so much.
I appreciate the time as always, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. You as well.
Thanks.